Okay, we're on. Seeing it's, seeing it's 6 p.m., I'd like to call the December 18th, 2024 regular meeting of the Kenai City to order. I want to welcome everybody here this evening and ask if you are able to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Casena?
Here.
Councilmember Dothit?
Here.
Councilmember Askin?
Here.
Vice Mayor Naxtet?
Here.
Councilmember Daniel?
Here.
Councilmember Sonart?
Here.
Mayor Gabriel?
Here.
Student Representative Tanner?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, before we get to agenda approval, I'd like to call attention to a laydown you should have in front of you with a requested addition to the packet action add to item E1, ordinance number 3445-2024, postponement of memo requested by the city clerk. And with that, I will motion to approve. Councilmember next, Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and with the add item E1 postponement memo. Request unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Is there anybody that would like to make an amendment? Or actually, I'd like to ask the clerk, please read the consent agenda into the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Let me get to that page. We have approval of the regular meeting minutes of December 4th, 2024, brought to you by the city clerk. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, non-objection to the renewal of a beverage dispensary tourism liquor license for Shillings Alaska LLC, doing business as Uptown Motel, Louis, license number 1859. Brought to you by the city clerk. Action approval, non-objection to the renewal of a marijuana product manufacturing facility license and a standard marijuana cultivation license for Red Run Cannabis Cultivators LLC, doing business as Red Run Cannabis Cultivators LLC, license number 19372 and 10052, and a retail marijuana store license for Red Run Cannabis Company LLC, doing business as Red Run Cannabis Company LLC, license number 10056, brought to you by the city clerk. Action approval, special use permit to Echo Lake Meats for use of 20 square feet of terminal space at the Kenai Municipal Airport, brought to you by the administration. And introduction of ordinance number 3446, 2024, accepting and appropriating a grant from the Alaska Food Coalition to the Kenai Senior Center, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing for January 15th, 2025, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll back up one. Is there anybody on council that would like to amend the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll open up our public comment to anybody that would like to speak to any item that is on the consent agenda, which was just read into the record. Seeing nobody in chambers online, bring back council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda is approved. This evening, we have no scheduled administrative reports. We have no scheduled public comment. We'll go to unscheduled public comment. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to address the council on this at this time on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we're going to go to public hearings. Item E1, first off, we have ordinance number 3445-2024. Decreasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Kenai City Municipal Roadway Improvement Capital Project funds to transfer residual balance from completed projects back to their original funding source, and increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Kenai City Water and Sewer, Public Safety, and Airport Improvements Capital Project funds to fully fund projects approved in the FY 2025 budget. Pleasure, Council. Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3445, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3445-2024? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. As I mentioned just a moment ago, there is a laydown that addresses this. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to postpone ordinance 3445, 2024 to the January 15th, 2025 City Council regular meeting. Request unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, this item will be moved to our January 15th meeting. Next up, we have item E2, resolution number 2024-52, reinstating a player registration fee for the City of Kenai City League basketball to support more games during the season. Pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 2024-52 and request unanimous consent.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2024-52? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, deliberation from council. Councilmember Dawson.
I guess since we have staff here from Parks and Rec, maybe you can elaborate on this. What effects, have you heard negative feedback or positive feedback of this, and kind of some feedback on how it would work?
Yeah, I'll go back to one of those things, when we took over City League, we moved it to a self-call league. We tried games once a week and we have a pretty strong base of teams. And then the fee schedule was built off of what we've done the last 2 years, which was actually just 18 games throughout the year. It was once a week for about 10 weeks. We do a player and coaches meeting at the beginning of every like winter season, and they really wanted more games was the big push. They wanted more games, and then they wanted a round robin at the end of the year. So this would cover the cost. I think the increase to some more supplies and more staffing time, the cost is $31.25 would be the total increase in costs for adding an additional like 42 games and some additional supplies. And if you just averaging on how many numbers of teams there are, the player fee will cover that. We will be up $25. So that just kind of covers what the players were asking for. And then also, as I addressed in my memo and my resolution, we took away the player fee to make it simple, but then we were kind of losing accountability. So there were some people just jumping in and playing City League for free. So this kind of reinstated some responsibility on the players to make sure it's only the people who signed the waivers and paid are playing.
Thank you. And that's why I was just curious if it was more of a participant sought after. It sounds like it was they're in favor of it, so.
I guess I got to do a follow-up question. So does this remove the team fee then? Is this
No.
in place of the team fee?
No, the team fee is still there,
Still there.
as it was and it's the same cost as it's been the last several years.
That's what I thought. Okay. Very good. Further comments, deliberation from council? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2024-52 is adopted. That brings us to item E3, resolution number 2024-53, approving extensions and amendments to 2 agreements with the State of Alaska Division of Forestry and Fire Protection. Pleasure of council.
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-53.
Second, request unanimous consent.
Very good. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2024-53? Seeing nobody in chamber or online, we'll bring it back to council. Deliberation, comments from council? Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you. This is kind of a 2-part resolution, and I thought maybe the city manager might kind of explain them a little bit, where they are, what they are.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the city has 2 memorandums of agreement with the Division of Forestry. Our first memorandum of agreement provides funding to the city for operations of a slash disposal site. I believe we've operated that site now for 3 summers. That we have about the original memorandum provided up to $150,000, and I think to date, after 3 summers, we have mid-80s, upper 80s, $85,000 left of those funds. So the state is interested in us continuing to operate that site and provide that funding. So this would give us the opportunity to do that again for next summer. The second memorandum of agreement is the memorandum of agreement to do tree cutting, hazardous tree removal, spruce bark beetle. What's really critical about that memorandum is, I believe it's $385,000, and that funding, or that memorandum, was the city's match share to a federal grant of the same amount. So in order for us to continue to utilize the remainder of that federal grant, we need this memorandum and that funding, or we have to come up with our own funds to provide that match. I do expect, I'll be just upfront with council, I do expect further amendment to the tree cutting memorandum to expand the scope. It's limited in scope right now to where we can cut trees and which phases have been approved for cutting of trees, and we do need to expand that so we can continue to use those funds. What's critical right now is both these funding sources of these agreements were scheduled to expire the end of December here. So this is our first step to just get the money extended, and then we don't need to do any more work on the slash site. But for the tree cutting, I do expect potentially a future amendment just to the scope of where we can cut trees and what we'll be doing. And so that likely will come back to council for approval, secondary approval. And happy to answer any other questions.
I do have a follow-up. I think our original contract right now is for 105 acres. Do you have an idea of what we might, additional acreage might be included in the future that we'll be asking for? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I don't, off the top of my head, I would speculate that the acreage will be more significant, certainly much more significant. A lot of the removal that we've done has been through two of the larger drainages here in town, which were, had some steep slopes where trees had to be removed, which required hand falling and things like that, which are certainly more expensive. The other thing that's really changed this project and the scope of it is the city's ability. We've partnered with the borough, and the borough brought some of their own federal funding into the city and did some mitigation on some city-owned property. You saw this along the Spur Highway there in front of the middle school, or down around the golf course area, around Oilers Park. There at Lawton Drive, the green strip there. So and then it also extended down Marathon Road. So the borough did a lot of the area we were going to do in future phases. So we're, I think the combination of this is going to let us do quite a bit more tree cutting and hazardous tree removal. So I think it's been working really well.
Councilmember Dalton?
And the gully next to the senior center, is that in this process for possibly next year?
Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Dossi. Yes, that is in our phase 3. So we've issued 2 phases of these so far. They were the drainage there between next to Forest Drive, and then the next one over that went all the way up by the airport. Those are the 2 drainages we've issued projects and is done now. Our next one is to continue working, I guess that would be east, and that drainage there, which also extends up, behind Safeway, Home Depot, out that way to all the way up to Marathon Road area. So that is slated for the next round of project.
Further questions, deliberation? Seeing none, I believe the announced consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2024-53 is adopted. That brings us to under item H6, action approval approving a certificate of acceptance notice for Keys Turn subdivision. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Dalton?
I move to, I'm not sure, just an action approval item of accepting a certificate of notice to Keys Turn subdivision.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion? Vice Mayor Nexon?
We have Mr. Ruffner here this evening. It's my understanding that this isn't city generated at all, that it's from the borough. It's just passed through Mr. Bloom to us. So perhaps, and also I believe that Mr. Bloom has some some plats that, since I printed one out, since there was none included with this, to make sense of where it is and what it is.
As the originator of the legislation before us, Mr. Ruffner, would you like to speak to it and maybe answer questions that folks might have here? And I don't believe I see the developer here as well, who I presume did the original request through the borough.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Gabriel, members of the council. I'm Robert Ruffner. I'm here tonight as the planning director for the Kenai Borough. Yeah, so I'll just try to wing a little bit of history here at you. I started in the planning department in 2022. This plat that we're talking about happened well before that in 2015. I was probably on the planning commission at the time the plat came through, so I know a little bit about it. I know a little bit about the history of how I got to be where it was, to where it is now, and the questions, why are we talking about a plat that was finalized in 2015? So by just the process, by background just a little bit, so the platting authority for the Kenai Peninsula Borough, including the municipalities, rests with the borough. So we hold that, the platting authority, but we defer to the cities on a lot of platting actions, and your planning commission also gets a chance to review and comment on plats that go forward. After I started this job, about, maybe 6 months into the job, the developer came to me with a concern that he felt like he was retaining some liability by the way this particular plat was processed. So on a plat, in today's code, there's a box when it's not the Kenai Peninsula Borough that's accepting a right-of-way for management authority. There's a box on there now that the cities would sign off on. So anybody that's in a municipality would get that plat, and there's puts a plat note on there with a city signature. That changed the day after this particular plat was brought forward. So, and it literally was the day before. So Planning Commission at the borough meets on Monday, and then the assemblies meet on Tuesday. So on Monday, this plat was brought forward back in either 2014 or 2015, I guess 2015 based on the number, was brought forward and processed under that code, which didn't require this box for a signature. It takes us quite a while sometimes to run through a plat from preliminary to final, that there's a process associated with that. And this one probably even took a little bit longer than normal. So for a whole year between preliminary and final signature on it, that plat was processed under the existing code at the time it was approved at the preliminary plat. Fast forward to today, and the developer felt like he was retaining some sort of liability as a result of there not being a block or a signature on there that's saying that the city accepted it. So the developer was under the assumption that neither your legal counsel nor my legal counsel believes to be the case, that there's no case law that would show that once you dedicate your own free will, a portion of a subdivision to either the borough or to municipality, that there's no retained liability. So the city has full management authority over this particular right-of-way, as any other right-of-way that's been accepted. This request is really discretionary in nature, in that the developer has asked, numerous times to have some document that would relinquish any potential liability that he perceives. We talked about doing this a couple of different ways. One would be an amended plat, which is a little bit longer process, would wind up in the same situation that we're in now, that we would be asking an amended plat to be signed off by the city for a certificate of acceptance. So rather than pursuing that route, which probably isn't the right route to go from the borough's perspective, because it was duly processed under the code at the time it was approved. So I agreed to that developer probably more than a year ago that I would try to do something to reduce his angst over this perception of retained liability. And so that's what brought it to you here today. So I think I'll pause because I know that there's a time limit typically on public comment. I probably went well over that. So I'll pause and see if there's any questions, and I'm happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Any questions for Mr. Ruffner? Vice Mayor Nixon?
Yeah, and I've already apologized to Mr. Ruffner. It sounds like if I'm interrogating him, because this is something I've looked at and you know, it's process, and you know, it was a day, but this assembly met, but that ordinance wasn't approved much longer. But then there's the 50 years before that, all of the right-of-ways and plats and everything. So a day, a month, 10 years, 30 years, you know, how far back do you go? But I guess you stated the plat was properly approved and recorded according to the code. The city has the dedicated right-of-way, and we're the authority in that right-of-way now. There's an underlying easement, section line easement that remains, but that's pretty normal. And is it you or is it the city, the borough attorney that says that the developer does not retain any liability for right-of-ways adjacent to his property? I mean,
Sure. Thanks for the question.
How do we know that?
Through the mayor. Yeah, no, it's the opinion of our legal counsel at the borough that there's no retained liability for the developer.
okay. In looking at the plat, of course, I was in planning too when this first went through, and then on council. The council has a copy of the plat. What looks like right-of-way in the subdivision there isn't. It's a tract A. It's also, this parcel had a lot of history in being developed. That is not city right-of-way in there. That belongs to the homeowners association. But to the question, I guess, is there's Dogwood Street that was platted earlier than that, but that also is adjacent to the property, to this developer. Is he not looking, does he feel I guess I'm asking what he's thinking, and maybe that's not a fair question, but it seems to me it's the same question. If Dogwood liability in his mind would be the same as the one that was transferred to the city, because it's all adjacent. Does that come up at all? Is that?
No, that hasn't come up. The underlying state section line easement has come up, and so that's just slightly bigger than the one that was dedicated to the city. And there's a separate process for vacating a underlying section line easement, but I don't believe that's been pursued. So, had it not been for the request of the developer to bring this forward, we wouldn't have brought this forward at all, because it, like I've said, I want to reiterate for the record, just to make sure that's very clear, is that we don't see that there's any retained liability to the developer once a plat is approved by the platting authority under the existing code. And that's important for us to get out to.
Just, this is unusual. I mean, we have everything we want. The borough has everything it wants. We're copacetic. We're set. It all met code, and I'm always concerned about precedences and what ramifications might have, if any. And sometimes they're not clear when we make decisions like this. And that, do you see this as a potential problem for other plats that were approved in the previous 50 years? People coming back, if we're going to talk about this, the press gets a hold of it, somebody, you know, and we're going to be coming back to the city of Kenai, Seward, Homer, Hope.
But I guess I'd give two answers to that. As one, I'm not overly concerned, because I mean, other people have brought, even in my short tenure at the borough, other people have kind of brought that concern forward. And then after, discussions with legal counsel, and sometimes they seek other outside counsel, they've come to the conclusion that no, there really isn't any retained liability. So it's unusual in this case that the developer for this particular dedication still seems to retain that concern. Precedent, I would like to think that in my role as a civil servant is that I would try to treat everybody the same. So if somebody else brought forward the concern and we weren't able to convince them otherwise, that we probably would try the same thing. We'd bring it up, see if there's an appetite for doing a one-off or something unusual and process it that way.
Further questions?
I guess,
Councilmember Dothan?
could you point out on this plot, what exactly, I was trying to decipher it on there. Is it just the road right-of-ways that are within the plat, basically, is what he's concerned about?
Yeah, I think there's a legal description in that certificate, so I might defer to your legal counsel, because I don't have the plat sitting in front of me either, so.
If you got it in front of you on the northwest corner of the property, there's Dogwood Street. There's a 30-foot dedication that's been created there, about 100 feet long, 30 feet wide. Yeah.
It's where it's at X.
The rest of it is not right of way.
Right. North Fern.
Oh, I'm sorry, North Fern.
So where the X is the area we're of
Correct.
concern? Okay. Wow. Okay.
Councilmember Casena?
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. If Robert or Scott could explain to me in simple terms, since I don't understand this fully, what would be the benefit to the city to in executing the attached certificate of acceptance?
Mr. Bloom?
Thank you. There is no benefit to the city.
I would concur.
Maybe I could play devil's advocate here a little bit. Would there, the benefit, and maybe to Mr. Bloom, maybe a question for Mr. Bloom to expand on that, the benefit to the city may be that this particular developer would move forward sooner with possibly selling these lots and to private citizens?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I don't know if that's been a hangup. I think there's a lot of challenges with this subdivision, but that's potentially true. I don't know one way or another.
Okay, because I guess my question to Mr. Ruffner would be, what would happen if we did nothing? I mean, let's say we didn't approve this and you would go, presumably the developer would want you to do with a plat amendment. Was that something you would do, or is a secondary strategy, or?
Yeah, I mean, based on the discussions I've had with our council, we probably wouldn't pursue that because the purpose of an amendment would be to bring it into compliance with the code at the time it was processed, and there wasn't a flaw in that process.
Councilmember Dothan?
So the borough doesn't have a problem with as it is. The city doesn't feel that this needs to be done and doesn't have any benefit to the city. So I guess the only person we're appeasing by doing this is the owner of the property to try to stop them from bugging the different agencies? Is that what I'm trying to get at here? I don't know how to word it, I guess, is just to silence them and.
Can we treat that as a rhetorical question? I think you figured it
I think
out.
we're all kind of on the same, we're like, so we're just appeasing the complainant, basically?
That's my understanding. is that we're-
Or relieving a developer's concern. Maybe you could phrase it that way, too.
More
Yeah, I
political way
think,
to say that,
yeah, I
guess.
think that's where I was like, this is giving him some sort of solace or peace of mind moving forward. That he's not going to be sued in the future.
So
Councilmember
just for
Dothan?
clarity, would it negatively affect the city by doing this, I guess, would be my question for council?
Mr. Bloom?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, Councilmember Dothett. I don't think there's a negative impact other than the potential of, it's certainly not something typically that we do take action or even spend this much resource on something for one individual that really doesn't have any bearing on the city. But, I mean, from my perspective, I think the borough, Mr. Ruffner said, hey, I'll take a stab at this for you, and that's why we're here.
Councilman Dothan?
There's been considerable amount of time and effort and staff time and money spent with staff time to get it to this point. For us to not do something would be kind of counterproductive is what I'm kind of seeing here, in my opinion on that.
Councilmember Sonart?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Oh, boy, as I try to sift through the process of my thoughts here and trying to find the words to figure out exactly what we're doing, what keeps coming back to my mind is that perception is reality. And I know, maybe not currently, but in recent years past, there's been a perception that the city of Kenai has been difficult to work with in the way of development and businesses. And by approving this certificate, we are at least showing to one person, one developer, that, hey, we do value and appreciate what you're trying to do in our city, and we're at least going to give you some peace of mind. That developer talks to other developers. He talks to other people. And if anything, it would be a positive perception that we are willing to work well with the people that want to invest in our city.
Further discussion? Councilmember Nexon?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, Ms. Sonar, having gone through this plat process, the road standards were questioned by the developer, and he hired an engineer. There was that, and that was allowed. The right-of-way that's within the subdivision is not right-of-way. It is a tract of land called Tract A. There's no right-of-way. The intent was it to be a gated community. Lots of discussion about that. The city, with this developer, has made a lot of concessions through the process. Additionally, the plat was, finalized, and then there were multiple extensions as well. It goes, and then we approved it and continued it on. So I think the city has done its due diligence with that, which really isn't this issue, but I just wanted to point it out that with this particular developer, this particular parcel, the city has done an awful lot. I guess the only thing I have to say is this is probably a waste of everybody's time. To put it perhaps rudely and not appropriately, but it kind of is. It's something that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I don't think, to the borough, to the city, to us, and I think it's important to discuss. That's kind of why I had my list here, but whether we approve it or not makes no difference.
Further discussion, comments, questions? Well, I guess where I stand on this is we're here at this point in time, and it is what it is, I mean, honestly, and I like Robert. I want to, so I think, where I sort of stand there is that, and I appreciate Councilmember Sonart's comments, is that we can't, at some level, and we've had a history with this developer on this subdivision on road standards and other things, and I get that, but, you can't sit there and tell people we want to be open for business, and then when we sort of come up with this up against something like that, I believe I understand Councilmember or Vice Mayor's next that's concerned about, following fact, I guess I'm not really concerned about a big ripple effect from this, to be honest with you. I think it's an appeasement to give this developer peace of mind. So I'll be voting for it, I guess, where I'm at. To honestly, to align with my comments that I made even when I run for election, that the city of Kenai is open to business. And again, I like Robert. I think that's, a good reason as well, so.
I like you too, Robert.
Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any anticipated further stipulations we're going to have to negotiate with this developer, or are we kind of on the last leg of all of this?
I could probably defer to, that's probably speculation. I don't think we really know. I mean, this is sort of a one, we kind of deal with these as they come up. I know there's been a long time, and when, like, this plat was developed in 2015, I don't think there's been any lots sold, and I'm not sure, where this development is going. I think at one time there was a talk of making a gated community, and, so there's been sort of stops and starts here with this, so anyway. Councilor Dawson?
I don't know if they sold it. I know I've seen them advertised and they're pushing them pretty hard. Looks like they have developed like driveways and stuff on some of the lots to try to sell them on, but I don't know if they actually have changed hands, but they are actively trying to sell them.
Further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Student Representative Tanner.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Approval of the certificate of acceptance. Notice for Key Turn subdivision is approved.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Ruffner, for coming to speak to it. I think that helped answer a lot of questions, having your insight there. Next up, we have item H7, scheduling a joint work session with Canisian Indian Tribe. I know this was a discussion at our last item, or our last meeting, and I think I'll maybe ask the administration if I think you were going to reach out where we left it with the Canisian Indian Tribe to see if there was any preferred time with them.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So we did hear back from the tribe, and their preferred time would be to meet Wednesday, January 15th. We originally had proposed a time of 4 o'clock, and I know there was some concern from some members of council that we might be rushed to get back over here. That's our one and only council meeting here in the month of January. So I did pitch to the tribe if they would 3 o'clock on the 15th be acceptable, and they said they could probably make that work if that's what is chosen. Their second choice would be the following day, January 16th at 6 p.m. And again, the location to be the Kenai Visitor and Cultural Center.
Councilmember Dawson.
On those dates, if we confirm that at 3 o'clock, because they're not going to have anything going on at the chamber as far as events or anything like that?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dodd. Yes, we've worked with the chamber director, and she said we could do it whenever. She's willing to accommodate. They're very excited to be able to showcase the work that's been being done in the cultural center as part of this meeting with the joint councils.
Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. First off, the 16th at 6 p.m. would be the preferred time for me, but what I really wanted to throw out there for everybody is something to add to the agenda to speak with them. While I was at AML, I was listening to some good discussions about formalizing of agreements, and it might be nice if we added that to the agenda to have something more formal with Canisian, maybe in an MOU or something in code, but really, I want to just solidify our partnership with them, and I'd like to kind of bring that to the table. I know we have MOUs on the fire truck, and there's something else too, but really more of an encompassing, hey, let's work together and solve some of our issues.
Okay, I think that's an administrative note there. Okay.
I can make either one I can make work probably. 6 o'clock is fine the next day, if that's fine. Either way, works for me.
I can make either one, so I guess my question, do you have a preference, Mr. Eubank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, displeasure, council. We're happy to accommodate anything.
Okay.
I mean, one thing I don't know, if we got a pretty big agenda going to be on our meeting that might run long, that'd be my only concern. If we're going to have a long meeting, that doing 6 hours of meetings might get long on that one day, but
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. How about, let's throw, just kind of nodding of heads, show of hands, on the Thursday, the following, the 16th. How many would prefer that day? Okay. There we go. Thank you. Yep. Next up, we have commission reports. First up, Council on Aging.
I wasn't able to attend the last meeting that happened last week because I was at AML, and I think most of council was, so I don't have a report on that. And I don't have a calendar for next year yet, I think, so perhaps, Madam Clerk, you, well, oh, I do. I do. And council on aging is, the meeting will be on the 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Airport Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I was at that. They worked on their 2025 annual work plan, and their number one objective is still the Sierra Taxiway. That's the one thing that they want to get done. And their objective number 2 is the West Side Hangar subdivision. And most of the conversation were about those 2 objectives and working through their 2025 plan. So that was it.
Thank you. Harbor Commission.
It's me. Sorry, I was entering that calendar for Thursday the 16th. Harbor Commission has not had a meeting since our last meeting. Their next scheduled meeting is February 10th.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Commission.
The last meeting didn't occur, so now we're going to have another one on January 2nd. I will not be here. Did I have somebody who was going to cover? Yes, I do have somebody that's going to cover. Okay, I couldn't remember, so nothing other than that report.
Very good. Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. I was at that one also. It was probably the shortest P and Z meeting on record, 11 minutes from start to finish. They passed resolution PZ 2024-24, and I'm going to read it directly because I'm not going to try and paraphrase it. And this passed with unanimous consent. Recommending approval of preliminary plat FBO subdivision 2024 addition for a replat of lots 5A and 5B of FBO subdivision number 10, which is located in the Airport Light Industrial Zoning District. Basically, it's 2 teeny little lots out on Willow, and if they remove the lot line to make it a nicer sized lot, it would become more commercially attractive.
Very good. Thank you. Beautification Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. We had no meeting. The next one is January 14th.
Thank you. So on the report of the mayor, I just want to say it's great. It's nice to be back. You know, had a great trip, but it is nice to be home sleeping in my own bed and being here. Being there and participating is not nearly as fun. And so it is great to be back. I want to thank Vice Mayor Naxton again for filling in for me and the work that he did. Much appreciated. I did attend AML last week, went to the Conference of Mayors and then did the opening day and sessions that day. And it was a good conference. I think we had more mayors there than we have had. It's kind of growing in the last couple of years, but it was pretty impressive, the amount of new mayors and mayors from rural areas that we haven't normally seen before, and a lot of new mayors as well. So areas that are less represented, less urban, obviously the bush. And it's interesting when you go to those conferences, how you really do get a feel for the differences, the vast differences between the issues that they face out in rural Alaska as opposed to we face. And one of the mayor from Teller, she gave a pretty good comments regarding her role as they call her Teller Tough. When you live in Teller, you're Teller Tough. And her job as mayor, she actually acts as the police chief as well, because they don't have a village safety officer. So, whenever there's a problem, who are you going to call? If you don't have a police chief, you call the mayor. And so interesting to see what the issues they deal with, like domestic disputes and things like that. But it was very good and always great to interact with different mayors around the state and network with them and get to know them. On Saturday, I attended the Wreaths Across America. Now, if you've gone over to the city cemetery here, you'll notice that all the veterans' graves are graced with wreaths now, very nice wreaths that are all put in. It's an event that I've attended the last 3 or 4 years that they'll go around and this was something that was started and it's a nationwide thing. And I can't remember the actual numbers, but it just seems to be growing and growing. But it's kind of facilitated by the local Abate chapter, and great shout out to them and the work that they do for that event. I want to welcome Mr. Fry. I haven't been able to meet him yet, so thank you for the work that you did in the work session prior to this meeting. I think so it looks like you did hit the ground running, and appreciate that capital improvement project work. Got my first Christmas present here. Thank you, Councilmember Sonard. I appreciate that. And I'll just wrap up by saying, wish everybody a Merry Christmas. With that, we'll go to our our administrative reports. City Manager Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Last week, I too, I attended on Monday and Tuesday, I attended the conference for the Alaska Municipal Managers Association, and followed that up the remainder of the week with the AML conference, and appreciate the opportunity from council to be able to attend those things. I did report last, no, I didn't. It was right after last meeting. We had the city's first land auction in, since I believe 2007. I think it was a great result. We sold all 11 parcels. Our average sales price came in about 118% of borough assessment on those 11. And we were, one individual did qualify for the city's veteran discount and did receive a 25% discount off the first parcel he purchased. We do have all of the deposits in now from all of those bidders. So we have those funds and we're moving towards closing at this time. Our planning director, Mr. Bootner, is going to serve as the city's official representative to the Cape Head Board. Christine Cunningham in my office has been filling in that role while we were filling the planning director position, and Mr. Bootner is going to be taking her place on that board. We had a new firefighter start today, Mr. Brendan Alberts. Chief did bring Mr. Alberts over, and I was able to meet him. He's definitely new to the area, so I want to welcome him to the community, and looking forward to his service with the fire department. As far as other personnel, we're currently recruiting for a library aide, a utility foreman, 2 police officers. So we have a few recruitments going on. Today was the first meeting of the Tourism Industry Working Group that was established by the Borough Assembly to look into the financial impact of visitors or tourists to the borough, and also the revenues that the borough is able to generate off of those at this time. At that meeting, it was really more just of an introductory meeting. Now, I will let council know that cities we are invited to those meetings, we're able to speak. We're not voting members of that committee. So at that meeting, they elected the chair. They elected Mayor Machicki to be the chair of the committee. Assembly member Kelly Cooper was elected vice chair, and the next meeting of that group will be on January 29th. Last Thursday, while up in Anchorage, I did take time out. Staff had a Zoom meeting with some representatives from Alaska Airlines and their scheduling group to talk about scheduled air service to the community. And our consultant then provided our presentation on the results of our leakage study. That information's, that report's been forwarded to them, and they're going to do some review on that, and then we hope to have some additional conversations at later dates to talk about things. They definitely said they would certainly consider, after review it, they could consider letters of interest for future SCADSB grant applications. So I think it was a positive meeting, and looking forward to seeing where that goes in the future. Our airport director was on that, as well as Ms. Cunningham in my office. Other than that, like the mayor and others, I want to say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. This is our last council meeting of the year. But I also want to just take a minute and send out a thank you to all of our city employees. I know the value that I place on them, and I think that value is shared with council, and I think your actions over the last few years regarding solidifying some, pay and benefits for city employees really emphasizes the commitment of this body towards our city employees. But the success of the city really is on the back of those folks. And I think they're dedicated, I think they're diligent, and I think they do great things for the city, and I'm really proud to be a part of that group. So I want to say thank you very much to our city employees, and wish them all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the city manager? Very good, thank you, Terry. City Attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city attorney? Seeing none, we'll go to our city clerk, Ms. Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Just would like to take the moment to thank the council for the opportunity to attend the Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks Conference in Anchorage last week, where I not only took several sessions on pertinent information, but I also had the opportunity to provide an hour-long session at that conference. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Questions of the city clerk? Seeing none, we'll go to additional public comment. Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to council comments. Councilmember Donovan.
Not too much. It was brought up, I guess they're going to be doing it, it's kind of sponsored by the Joint Chambers. Kenai Solana to put on meet and greet if anybody would like to come and meet Miss Faulkner, the biking Olympic gold medalist from Homer, at the 28th, I believe at 3 p.m. At the Hideout over by the Cannery Lodge. They're going to have a meet and greet for an hour or two. If you wanted to go say hi and congratulate her, she will be there to meet some of the local people. And then I know that there's some chamber members going to be there, and they were just going to hope to invite any council members and just to say hi and meet her if you'd like to do that. She's just got a couple hours, I guess, between heading back to Anchorage because apparently she lives in Paris. So she's traveling back home after the holidays. So I thought that would be kind of neat if anybody wanted to show up. It'd be kind of neat to say hi to one of our local Olympian gold medalists. Other than that, I'm excited to be on the beach for Christmas this year. So a couple more days.
Thank you. Student Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I have a few things to report. For connections, one of the students, Sheen Lantana, was admitted to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology yesterday as part of the early action round. For KCHS, December 19th is a junior varsity basketball versus Homer tournament at the KCHS gym. December 20th is the cross-country skiing candy cane scramble at Salteshi Trails. December 19th through the 21st is the Craig Jung basketball tournament. December 20th through 21st is a wrestling state invitational tournament at the Alaska Airlines Center in Anchorage. December 28th through the 30th is the girls basketball Capital City Classic tournament in Juneau. From January 2nd to the 4th is a basketball tournament at Mountain City, and January 6th is a school tournament versus Seward basketball at the KCHS gym. And then, of course, winter break for all schools is from December 23rd to January the 3rd. Other than that, nothing else. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Councilmember Donovan. Sonard. I'm sorry, Sonard.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I did not get to go to AML last week. I did my Christmas concert. It went very well, and I picked up the slack for several of the meetings here while you guys were gone. No. And then this weekend, I did get to perform with the Kenai Peninsula Orchestra on the Christmas concert. We did a concert here in Kenai Saturday and a concert in Homer on Sunday. And I have to say, the orchestra sounded really good this year. We've been slowly getting musicians back since we started after the COVID years. And it's been a little lean the last couple of years, but this past weekend, it sounded like it did pre-COVID. So it was like, yay, good for the peninsula.
Thank you, Councilmember Raskin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I got to attend the senior citizen Thanksgiving luncheon. That was the largest group ever, I think, that we fed. And then I got to attend AML, and what I think one of the highlights for me was it was nice to see that many of the other towns and villages are experiencing the same kinds of issues we are with retention and recruitment and personnel and everything, and some different things that they were doing to try to fill those holes. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Councilmember Daniel.
Oh, man, I sound like a broken record. I'll just keep it short then. Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. It was a great year working with staff, and you all are doing good work. Really appreciate it. I too attended AML, and to echo Councilmember Askin's comments, it's really interesting to see the similar struggles we have, and then, like the mayor said, some of those different struggles that they have out in the bush, the rural communities in Alaska, and how the mayor or whoever gets to wear 15 different hats. It was a really good conference, and I really appreciate being able to go.
Thank you, Councilmember Casana.
Thank you. I attended the AML's newly elected officials training on Monday. It was the only day I was able to attend. Certainly more information that I could take in, but I have several notes. It was also great to meet a number of other newly elected officials or returning officials who had just been out of training for a while. I met Santa Claus, so we have our own here, but not quite the same. And I'd also just like to thank the clerks for coordinating that. And after spending some time at that conference, I think it really highlights the skill and experience we have locally with our clerks, both at the borough and especially here at the city. So I think we're fortunate where we're at. And other than that, happy holidays and thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexon.
Just a couple things. Welcome back, Mayor. We missed you. It's good to have you back, and I appreciated the opportunity to do all those things that you do. Well, besides just doing the meetings, which is something I hadn't experienced for quite a while. Actually done them a lot, but it's been a long time. But ribbon cuttings and those kind of little events here and there and that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, it's good to have you back. I went to AML, had a good time. There was a number of the courses or whatever that I thought were valuable and useful that I would bring back here for the city. But, a lot, after having gone to a number of these through the years, I really appreciate the networking, with the other communities, other mayors or council members or city managers that I got to meet and know better. And I think that makes our city stronger when we can do that. Also, I wanted to thank Mr. Fry for your presentation tonight. And kind of what I'm kind of gathering out of this is I really do appreciate your fresh look at some of these projects and approaching them and the design and how they will be built and whatnot. You were talking about some reductions in costs, things that we can do, and I appreciate that kind of thinking. And beyond that, happy solstice, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Seeing no other business